watching.
Subscribe.
Hello, you're watching ScreenStalker. I'm Laurie Blake, and this is the gaming news. Why not have yourself a little super click party by hitting a thumbs up, pressing subscribe, and destroying the bell icon to improve notifications and answer our question of the day. How does Nintendo follow up on Breath of the Wild? We'll be talking about that, plus a new Mario and Sonic crossover game, a new Sega console, sort of, and a Smash Bros. Ultimate character leak. But you gotta be careful with the gaming news that came out today though, because you don't want to be an April Fool. But first, the very first tidbit about the 6th game in the Elder Scrolls series has finally been released. It's gonna feature rocks and a granny, sort of topography and topical grannies. Geologies and geoldies. They're sort of scanning everything in age order. Because Bethesda have confirmed that YouTuber Shirley Curry, aka the Skyrim Grandma, will be featured in the game as an NPC. Now, late last year, the fans of the game called for Curry to be added to the next Elder Scrolls title, may as well be called Respect Your Elder Scrolls, and put together a petition which gathered some 50,000 signatures. So then the company invited Shirley into their studio, scanned her to capture her likeness, and make her immortal in the world of the Elder Scrolls. No word on what sort of NPC she'll actually be in the game, probably an adventurer who's retired after taking arthritis to the knee. But to be honest, only Tamriel. Puns. Now, you'd have been forgiven for getting this next title exists, but remember Driveclub? It was a PlayStation exclusive racer that had that sort of Top Gear slavish attention to detail, but without the most unnecessary racist comments in the world. Well, if you do remember Driveclub, you may as well not, because Sony has confirmed that the game will enter its end-of-life phase on the 31st of March 2020. A press release said, online servers for Driveclub, Driveclub VR and Driveclub Bikes will shut down on 31st of March 2020 at 23:59 British Summer Time. All online features, including online multiplayer modes, will cease on that date. You will still be able to play and enjoy these games in single-player offline modes. The post also says that players won't be able to use season passes online, play online multiplayer, compete in challenges and leaderboards, share stats and player progress, or represent their club online. So it's Drive now. Sort of sad-looking Ryan Gosling simulator. And like a Ryan Gosling trip to a motel, things weren't right with Driveclub from the start. The game suffered numerous delays after it was announced in 2013, missing that key launch window for the PlayStation 4, and developer Evolution Studios struggled after that before they were bought by Codemasters. And the studio, now just called Evo, was hit by layoffs in the middle of last year after their latest title, Onrush, struggled sales-wise. And the studio also lost its head, Paul Rashinsky, like he was Christina Hendricks' head, and the rest of the studio was the body. Drive. What a film. But before Driveclub shuts its doors for good, players are still able to purchase season passes and add-on content up until 31st of August this year. So if you're feeling inspired by this little newsy bit, get on it. Or if that 2020 deadline is putting you off, then how about something that will last you a little bit longer, until at least 2021? Because at Sega Fest, or however you say it, 2019, a fan event in Tokyo, the House of Hog unveiled a brand new Mario and Sonic crossover game, Mario and Sonic, at the Olympic Games 2020 for the Nintendo Switch. Now, it looks fairly similar to the last titles in this series, with the Mushroom Kingdom gang facing off against the anthropomorphic lot from wherever it is that Sonic lives, mostly in our memories, because every game since Sonic 3 has been terrible. Now, alongside this title, 3 other Olympic-themed games were unveiled. Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games 2020 Arcade Edition, Olympic Games, the official game for PS4, Xbox One, PC and Switch, if you just want normal people in your games and not rabbits, bats, twin-tailed foxes, that kind of thing, and a mobile game called Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020. So just Sonic. Was Mario done for doping? What's in those mushrooms? Now, if you thought this ultimate shade being thrown on Mario was like a leap back in time to the old console wars days, you're gonna love this. Because while Nintendo has been making money the last couple of Christmases with the NES and SNES Mini, and Sony has even been muscling in on the act with the outrageously underwhelming PlayStation Classic, Sega has decided they want a bit of the action, 16 bits to be exact. Because at the same fan expo in Tokyo, Fez, or whatever it is, they unveiled the Sega Mega Drive Mini, or the Sega Genesis Mini if you're from outside Europe and you had the worst name. It's come in preloaded with some 40 games, including Castlevania Bloodlines that Luke will never complete, Space Harrier 2, Shining Force, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, Toe Jam and Earl, Comic Zone, Sonic the Hedgehog, one of the good ones, Altered Beast, Gunstar Heroes, and Wet Mammal Conversation Simulator Ecco the Dolphin. Interestingly, the ports of all of these titles have been handled by M2, the same company that worked on the rather brilliant Sega Ages and Sega 3D Classics collection for the 3DS. Now, if you fancy it and, going to the garage to dig your old one out seems like too much effort, pre-orders are now live with the console costing $79.99 in the US, £69.99 in the UK, €79.99 in Europe, or 139 Aussie dollars 95, because Australia always gets shafted on game prices. But while Sega have been revisiting the past because that's the only place they were good, Valve have been thinking about the future. And despite all of the evidence to the contrary, they seem to think that it's VR. Or at least that's what we've inferred from this relatively empty website dubbed Valve Index, featuring a lone picture of somebody clasping what looks to be a pair of VR goggles or an old weird Polaroid camera. The site also features the words "Upgrade your experience, May 2019. Now, the device in the picture matches the leaked prototype of an alleged Valve prototype VR headset that was doing the rounds in November last year. And it's interesting because Valve have been very open about the games they are currently working on that use VR, but they've been very coy about which devices they might be coming to. And this may well very be the reason why. So it seems like Valve is about to just leap wholeheartedly into the VR space, so they can not make Half-Life 3 there either. Now, if that all seems a bit too technically minded for your taste, then what about this news for the more bloody-minded amongst you? Because Devil May Cry 5's free Bloody Palace DLC goes live today. The April Fool's joke here being that you think it's fun to play the hardest mode in the game. Because for the uninitiated, the Bloody Palace is a super hard, endless wave survival mode that lets you play as either Goth Hero Dante, Goth Clone Nero, or Goth Nobody Likes V. But just because you're allowed to, it doesn't mean that you should, so Dante is just fine, thank you very much. Now, your items and abilities carry over from the main game, so this mode will be loads easier with a whole completion under your belt, unless of course you're Chopper, who will always be rubbish. And you start with 2 minutes on the clock and lose if you run out of time or die. You get more added to the timer if you manage to play stylishly or beat a wave without taking any damage. Now, this is probably the true test of a Devil May Cry player's mettle, so get out there, folks, and see how far you can descend. But hopefully this is actually just a warm-up for some proper DLC which should be coming soon, because the rumours going around at the moment include multiplayer and potentially some new playable characters, hopefully the women from the game, and not just this fanny. Now, if you do like Devil May Cry, and even if you don't, we have been playing it on this channel and mostly just taking the piss out of Chopper. So click the eye above my head if you fancy a little watch of that. As we said earlier, Sega is going back to the Mega Drive era to seem cool, trendy, and relevant, but Nintendo has been over here with the Switch, reinventing some of their oldest and dearest series and giving them a little modern twist. None more so than the makeover that The Legend of Zelda got for Breath of the Wild, which was the best-selling entry in the series to date. Its go anywhere, do anything approach to gameplay was masterminded by Eiji Aonuma and his team at Nintendo EPD, but wouldn't have been possible without the kings of open world titles, Monolith Soft. Because Monolith are famed for the Xenoblade series and its sweeping vistas and vast plains, and also their terrible ability to keep things under wraps. Because they kinda let the cat out of the bag on the fact that a new Zelda is going into development right now. Because they've advertised lots of positions for a new Zelda game, which in itself is about as surprising as a Zelda plot, but the interesting thing is that the posting features some really rather cool artwork, because there's a Triforce design similar to the ones seen in Skyward Sword, which is the 3 goddess crests, and also a seal that looks like the Gate of Time, which Link uses in Skyward Sword to sort of traipse around the timeline with no regard for temporal paradoxes. The madman! Now, this could just be the artwork the HR department had to hand, as Monolith did help finish Skyward Sword 2, or it could suggest that Zelda is about to get even more open air than Breath of the Wild and head back to the skies. Which we would get no argument out of me about, especially if we get a Skyward Sword remake in the run-up as well. Make that happen, Nintendo, anytime. It's just a free idea. I'm just chucking it out there. Staying with the Ninty news now, because like an old man with a bladder problem, they can't stop leaking. Because with the hunger for more details on which characters will be included in the Smash Bros. Ultimate Fighter Pass, rumors have been flying around about who will make the cut. Everyone from Banjo and Kazooie, Master Chief, Steve from Minecraft, Tom from MySpace have been floated as possibilities. But the only one we know for sure is that Joker from Persona 5, a game not even on the Switch, has received his invitational letter and will be turning up to Brawl, or to Melee if you're an Evo kid. And now, Best Buy have jumped the gun and leaked the render for the character on their website, which came out late last night but was still up when I wrote this news this morning, so they don't give a flying Fox McCloud. Now, the fine upstanding gents over at Game Explained did a little bit of digging and reverse searched the image to prove that this was indeed a brand new render of what the character will look like when he makes the leap to Smash. Which also means that if this is the character pose they're going for with Joker, then chances are the eventual amiibo is gonna look exactly the same. Thank you for watching, and don't forget that super click party you've been invited to. Hit subscribe, smash the thumbs up, and give that bell a little tickle. Grace. Also, don't forget to leave a comment answering the question of the day, and head on over there to get some more awesome content from ScreenStalker. And most importantly, remember, we're watching.